Happening right now on the news at 4, it's a story many of you are talking about today in the D.C. sports world. The $3.7 billion deal to bring the Washington Commanders back to the district. The team left RFK Stadium in Northeast 29 years ago and moved to its current home in Prince George's County, Maryland. Well, now decades later, city leaders are pushing to bring the Commanders back to their old stomping grounds. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Simone D'Alba. Although this RFK Stadium deal sounds promising, it's not sealed just yet. The D.C. Council still needs to give a final approval. And as the official television station of the Washington Commanders, we've got you covered every step of the way. This afternoon, we have team coverage from the details of this RFK deal to Maryland lawmakers' response to moving the team out of state. We have what you need to know and how this will impact you. I want to send it over to Lorenzo Hall. He's live in front of RFK Stadium in Northeast. And so as a D.C. native, a Commanders fan, what's this been like? How's it feel to see this come to fruition?
Oh man, Simone, this is a big deal, putting it lightly here. What a historic day for D.C. and for the Commanders. The Commanders saying today the time is now to bring Washington back to D.C. So where we are right now on this RFK site, you can see behind me, it's pretty sleepy. It's an eyesore. It's just been like this for decades now, but the Commanders are ready to change that. You know, back in the day, wow, what a difference. Look at this video the Commanders put out earlier today, this sort of hype video to get everyone excited about the big announcement today. And you can see the stands were rocking at the time. The fans were excited. You're talking about Super Bowl wins back in the day as well. You know, if you're from D.C., if you've lived here a while, or if you attended some of the games, you really do understand the team's impact on this city's culture. But as Simone mentioned at the top of the broadcast, it is not a done deal just yet. The honeymoon may be short-lived here because, you know, we have to talk about money at this point. I got a message from my mom earlier, huge Commanders fan. She was watching the announcement. She tells me, you know, okay, it's done. They're coming back home. They said, welcome home. And I said, Mom, you know, okay, pump the brakes just a bit. This still has a long way to go. We know the team is trying to open up here before the first game in 2030. And a lot has to happen between now and then. I want to bring in my colleague, Eric Flack. He was at today's big announcement. And Flack, we know a lot of people are celebrating right now. We have President Trump saying this is a big win. You have the mayor, you have the Commanders leadership also saying this is a big win. But now we have to talk about money. And this is where it gets really serious, right?
You know, this is where the rubber meets the road, Zoe. And as you mentioned, this announcement was a day that for many Commanders fans was almost 3 decades in the making, from the moment that the team left this spot in RFK for a stadium out in Prince George's County, 6 miles down the road that way. But it was this morning at the National Press Club downtown that Commanders owner Josh Harris, as well as Mayor Muriel Bowser, were joined by NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell to announce that landmark agreement for a new stadium on this old RFK site. The estimated $3.8 billion project includes $1.1 billion in taxpayer financing. That includes money for infrastructure, parking garages, a youth sportsplex, all at a time when the district is being asked to limit spending by the federal government. But today, Bowser told reporters the city needs this investment now more than ever.
If you need to add revenue, as we do, you can't leave 180 acres vacant. If you need to add jobs, as we do, you cannot wait for an anchor to show up to start developing there. When you need to attract business, you have to be about business.
It is about DC and making this more than just a stadium and making it attractive. I mean, think about it with the Washington Monument, the Capitol, and the Anacostia River, and you know, this is going to be one of the most important stadiums in the world, right?
Yeah, also important to note that $2.7 billion investment by the Commanders, if this stadium project moves forward, would be the largest private investment in District of Columbia history. The development of the RFK site would not just be a stadium behind me. There would be 5,000 to 6,000 new homes. There would be a youth sports complex. There would be retails, restaurants, bars, green space, around 54 acres of green space. So a lot more than just a stadium, Zoe, and that is how it is being sold by the mayor, by the administration, by the Commanders, when you're talking about this huge public investment in excess of more than $1 billion over time in taxpayer money.
Yeah, we're talking about DC's Ward 7, Flack, and we know that there's really no in this area, aside from the homes and everything else, there's nothing here attracting folks. So of course the mayor is trying to change that right now, along with Ward 7 council member Wendell Felder. Flack, we know that this is about 180 acres we're sitting on right now, and Josh Harrison, the mayor, also said this stadium will only take up a small portion of that land. So tell us, what is it supposed to be like? What's the fan experience supposed to be like here?
Well, reporters today in an early morning session got the term sheet, a lot of the nitty-gritty details about what this stadium will entail. Here's what we know right now. It will have a dome. It will likely be a translucent dome, meaning one of those domes you can kind of see through. The images that the team put out are not necessarily renderings of what the final product will look like, but it did in fact show a translucent clear dome where you would be able to see the sky. The commander said all options are on the table, meaning they're still considering a retractable dome, but everything I'm hearing is that translucent dome that just stays in place is much more likely. You're talking about a 65,000 seat stadium that would come with what's known as permanent seat licenses, or PSLs. That's where season ticket holders have to pay a huge premium, thousands of dollars, just for the rights to then purchase their season tickets. It's a very expensive idea. It can be a controversial idea. It is also something that comes with almost every new NFL stadium. There's going to be about 8,200 parking spots. That will cut down on tailgating, but the team says tailgating will still be available, set to open, as you mentioned, in the fall of 2030. And Zoe, the NFL commissioner today, was asked about a Super Bowl. He said, I'm not here to guarantee anything. I'm not here to announce anything, but that new stadium certainly helps the city's chances of getting a Super Bowl dramatically. How about that?
Oh yeah, that changes things for sure, Flack. And you're talking about a stadium with a dome as well, so you can use this year-round. Really quickly, Flack, I want to touch on those parking spaces because, you know, that's a far cry from what we see over at Northwest Stadium right now. Almost double the parking spaces we have, more than double the parking spaces that they're planning here for the RFK site. But the infrastructure here is just different. You know, you have multiple metro stops you can walk from. You have Uber as well at this point. You have the trolley going down 8th Street. So there are so many ways to get to the stadium compared to Northwest Stadium in Prince George's County.
It's going to be in that urban stadium mold, Zoe. So there are going to be parking garages instead of parking lots. The city, a lot of the city's investment, like over $300 million of the city's investment over time, is going to go to those parking garages, which the city will ultimately own. There are studies for WMATA Metro to study the egress, the in and out of getting all those fans in and out of the one metro station that is here in this area. Is there any idea to expand that? Those studies are part of this investment as they look forward. There is going to be Uber, a ride share. There's going to be all different ways to get to this stadium, aside from those sea of parking lots that we know so well at Northwest Stadium. 22,000 parking spots out there, 8,200 with the new stadium here. That's a different experience out there. Probably the one thing people do love about Northwest Stadium, the tailgating. It'll change down here, but be replaced by a game day experience with bars, restaurants, and some limited tailgating. So.
Okay, Flack, thank you so much. A lot to figure out between now and also the time that the council is supposed to vote on this, which is expected to be this summer. All right, Flack, I'll see you a little bit later. Right now, I want to bring in our Chick Hernandez, who was at today's announcement as well. And Flack, or Chick, we're talking about all the excitement today, including the former players. How are they feeling about this right now?
And by the way, Zoe, I've been called worse, so it's okay becoming Flack every once in a while. Yeah, listen, this has been talked about really, if we're honest, ever since they left the old RFK Stadium 29 years ago. The previous owner couldn't get squat done, but as soon as Josh Harris and company took over, a lot of the alumni came back to the family. And that is the reality of Dan Snyder, who he was, and the Josh Harris group, who they are. Obviously, a pretty big announcement held at the National Press Club. Among those in attendance, the legendary head coach Joe Gibbs, along with many of his former players, Doug Williams, Darrell Green, and John Riggins. Green had his jersey retired this past season. Today, just another great day to be a part of the Burgundy and Gold.
You made your living on that site in D.C. To be sitting here watching this today and see what's taking place, how does that hit Darrell Green?
It hits me really deeply. 'Cause I've always said that I'm not from D.C. I was humbled and privileged to be able to come into what they had already established and add a little something to it. But I'm very humbly respectful of the stories. Man, my grandmother, man, my grandfather. I remember when my uncle, always used to watch, and I love that and I appreciate that humbly. But I feel like today I'm like a part of it. This is a new moment. This group has just continued to show themselves to be such a quality group of humans, and I like that. That's what I'm always about, people and humans, not as much about things and all this stuff. But no, these folks are human. Wow, do we not only need it for our sports, but we need it for our humanity. And thank you.
So listen, for a kid who got kicked out of RFK Stadium back in the '72 NFC Championship game, this guy right here, it's a special day for those folks who grew up in the area. You can see and hear the gratitude of Darrell Green's voice and his heart. That was the vibe today from one of the former players. Cool to see current GM Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn on hand today as well. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, you will hear from Doug Williams, who created many a memory at RFK Stadium as we send it back to the old site and the old guy, Lorenzo Hall. Lo?
Hey, Chick, you can't leave us hanging like that. You got kicked out of RFK Stadium back in the day. You're not going to tell us why?
Well, I mean, I was a kid. My mom took me to the game, and I was rooting for the other team at that point. And somebody back in the day, you could actually carry in or have glass beer bottles. And because of the jersey I was wearing, someone threw a bottle at me, at my back, hit me. My mom turned around and took care of business mighty quickly. And that's the story of Chick Hernandez as a young fellow.
As a great mom would do. Hopefully we get some new memories if they end up building on this site behind us in the coming years. Okay, Chick, thank you.
Okay.
All right, but again, as we've been saying, this is not a done deal just yet. Right now, it's going to fall on the D.C. City Council. We know that only 4 council members were present for this big announcement today. At least 7 votes will be needed to get this through. I want to head to our Rafael Sanchez Cruz now, who is outside of the Wilson building. And Rafael, we know that Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, he has some concerns about taxpayer dollars being used for what they are planning here at this site. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right, Lorenzo. He was actually not at today's event. Like you mentioned, it was only 4 out of the 12 council members who were at the announcement. And as you mentioned, so Mayor Bowser needs this to be approved by the council by July, and she needs 7 of those 12 votes. So Chairman Phil Mendelson told WSA 9 in a statement that the council was not consulted about the negotiation. Mayor Bowser wants to invest public funds, but Mendelson says it will cost the district nearly $1 billion, and he says that doesn't include investments into Metro and the surrounding park site. In a statement, Mendelson added, "I continue to be concerned with investing any public money into a stadium while we have constrained budgets and revenue and unmet needs," end quote. Now, others like Councilmember Charles Allen have signaled similar concerns. Mayor Bowser is expected to include the public financing components in her 2026 capital budget. Some members of the council, including the chairman of the Economic Development Committee, Councilmember Kenyon McDuffie, says they're all in.
We want to make sure that we're working together as a council, working with the executive to do what's in the best interest of District of Columbia residents and taxpayers and families, and that's our priority. This deal is going to fit within those priorities.
For me, it's about our community. And, every community nowadays is looking for ways to revitalize. And we're lucky. We have the commanders that want to be here.
Now, today we got a little hint that this is only the beginning of a larger plan that we're going to know about in the upcoming days regarding Mayor Bowser's budget. But perhaps the council member who has the most difficult job right now, Lorenzo, is Wendell Felder, as you mentioned, the Ward 7 representative who now has to talk to his constituents and his neighbors who are in opposition, some of them, to the construction of a new stadium, some voicing concerns about wanting more housing. He says there needs to be a huge education effort to let them know what's going to happen. We'll hear more about what he has to say coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Outside the Wilson Building, Rafael Sanchez Cruz. Zoe, back to you.
Yeah, we heard the mayor during that press conference earlier today, Rafa, that big announcement saying they do plan on building at least 5,000 to 6,000 homes on this site, because we know that was a big concern amongst a lot of people in the city, saying that the city needs more affordable housing. So we do know that is part of the plan. Rafael, thank you. We'll see you back here at 5 o'clock. And you know what I thought was interesting today is who we saw at this meeting as well. Former D.C. Mayor Sharon Pratt. We know she tried to keep the Commanders, the Washington football team, in D.C. back in the 90s when Jack Kent Cooke owned the stadium. That could not get done. She called him a billionaire bully at the time. And she said it was really tough to take ownership of this land. But here's what she had to say earlier today about this announcement.
The team left because we couldn't reconfigure the stadium the way Cook wanted us to, because we didn't own the stadium. The Department of Interior owned the stadium. Now we've got the stadium, so we're in a totally different position. And I don't think the city ever lost its affection for the team.
Yeah, and because Pratt could not keep the team here in D.C., Jack Kent Cooke decided to move to Prince George's County. That is where the stadium sits right now. That's where the team has been playing for more than 2 decades. We know that in Landover. So what now for Prince George's County? I want to bring in our Lionel Donovan, who listened in to today's announcement as well. And Lionel, what are you hearing from Governor Moore? What are you hearing from the Maryland delegation? How do they feel about this potential move?
Good afternoon, Lorenzo. Well, some of them say that this might actually be a blessing in disguise. I'm here at Northwest Stadium now, and things are actually pretty quiet over here. The team store is closed on Mondays, and only a few people have shown up to exercise and walk around the stadium. Meanwhile, cars have been driving by all day, going somewhere else. This is the environment that Maryland Governor Wes Moore pointed to earlier today when he said that the Commanders going to D.C. might actually benefit some of the surrounding communities. The governor made those comments during an event in Riverdale where he discussed Maryland's investments in the state's quantum industry. He touched on the need to diversify Maryland's economy and focus on industries that can grow in the state, which, according to Governor Moore, would not include Northwest Stadium. He highlighted that the stadium goes unused for most of the year and says that when that happens, that doesn't bring any value to people in the surrounding communities. And so he promised that that will not be the case for whatever replaces the stadium in the future.
Entire country. It's something that is 200 acres that is used 8 times a year for a few hours during that time period. And it's something that does not have all the other assets that the people in the neighborhood are really benefiting from. The commitment that I have is what we are seeing now, what we're going to see in the future, it will be better. And that's a commitment that we're making to the people of Prince George's County. So I think they can be actually very optimistic about what the future of Lanham is going to look like.
Now, I had a chance to sit down with the chair of Prince George's County Council in regards to what that commitment could look like. And I'll have more on that conversation at 5. But for now, we're live at Northwest Stadium. Lionel Donovan, WUSA 9.
All right, Lionel, thank you. And you know, this stadium right now, Northwest Stadium, sits in Prince George's County. And I want to read you a statement we got in the last hour from Acting County Executive Tara Jackson about this potential move. She said in part, quote, "This moment presents an extraordinary opportunity, not just for football fans, but for families and small businesses across the county. We remain fully committed to redeveloping the Landover site into a dynamic, mixed-use sports and entertainment district that enhances the fan experience and benefits our community year-round." So that is from Acting County Executive, again, Tara Jackson there in Prince George's County. You know, Simone, as we've been saying all along, a lot of folks are extremely excited about this potential move back to D.C. for the Commanders. But if you haven't gathered from our coverage so far today, there's a lot of work to be done. Again, the team wants to have this up and running by the fall of 2030. So you're talking about 5 years from now, with the council expected to vote on this sometime this summer. So we'll continue our coverage in just a moment, but we know there is a lot more happening today as well. So I want to get back to you in the studio with the rest of today's news, Simone.
Well, Zoe, you touched on it. It is the single largest private investment in D.C. history, and today's announcement brought all of that energy to the forefront. All of that excitement has just kind of been renewed and revitalized, and this is just the tip of the iceberg as we do await for D.C. Council to see where they take this. Zoe, we'll see you in a bit. Thank you so much. Our coverage doesn't stop here. Tonight, we'll be streaming a Return to RFK special exclusively on WUSA 9+. It starts at 6:30 right after this newscast, and it is free to watch. Just download the WUSA 9+ app on your smart TV and tune in. We'll be right back.